Let's see. Hey, welcome everyone to the Other Side of Addiction podcast. This is a podcast that explores various aspects of addiction, potentially focusing on personal stories of recovery, scientific perspectives, societal impacts, and related topics. This podcast often features discussions with experts, individuals in recovery, therapists, and advocates to offer insights and support to those affected by addiction or seeking more information about it. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards, and today with our lovely guest, Jessica, we're going to be talking about experimental medicines and the usage. Jessica, thank you so much for taking time out of your afternoon to jump on this show with me. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you for the invite. For picking.
Absolutely. In the short time that I've known you, seriously, you impress me. And I'm not saying that to just throw it out there. You literally impress me about your knowledge of the medications that's out there, and also your knowledge of the amino acids, which is something that I knew back in my bodybuilding days that was very important to take, but that's a different type of an amino acid. The amino acids that you're talking about are things that literally our body really does need on a daily basis. Is that correct?
Yep. So the ones that you use for workout are branch chain amino acids. And the ones that I'm talking about are free form amino acids that help replenish the neurotransmitters in our brain.
And so basically it's brain food that we really do, because our brain's an organ. It's probably one of the most important organs in our body, and we're not nourishing it like we do other things. Is that correct?
Correct. So most of our brains are starving because we're not giving our brain the nutritional value that it needs. We're not eating nutritionally dense foods. We're eating a lot of foods that are not really foods. They're just filler foods and not even really food ingredients, right? So a lot of us are eating the box foods, fast foods, just these foods that are creating inflammation, and our bodies are not used to that. Our bodies are not built to get rid of those types of toxins or take whatever it is and grab nutrients from it, because there is no nutritional value. And so that's creating the starving brain. These vegan diets, the vegetarian diets, we need protein to build the amino acids so that our brain can function. And we're not getting that. A lot of people are not getting that.
Yeah, I would say the majority of us. I mean, I listened to your podcast, The Wellness Crusaders, and I remember on one of your shows, matter of fact, it could have been the one just even yesterday, talking about like the ingredients that they put on like Cheetos and different types of other like chips and things like that. That really, this is all just fake. Fake. Oh my gosh, what word do I want to use? It's not natural. These things are made from chemicals that it tastes really good. Our taste buds love it. However, our body is going, what the hell are you putting inside me? Because again, it's all nasty stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It is nasty stuff. It's byproducts of certain things, like canola oil was originally used for jet fuel, and now that's what everything is cooked in. Our French fries. You look at the back of potato chips. Potato chips are fried in canola oil, and it just causes inflammation. And when our brain is inflamed, we can't think. Our neurotransmitters are not able to fire. There's the inflammation that's happening. Plus, there's microglia, and microglia goes around. It's this little, it's part of our immune system, and it's this little tiny thing that goes around and it cleans up our dead neurons. Now, when we have too much inflammation, it's overactivated, and so it can actually eat some of our healthy neurons. So that's the microglia. And this is another reason we want to reduce inflammation and help feed our brain and feed our body, because what we're putting into our body, what we put into our stomach affects our brain. What we do to our brain affects our body. So we're so removed though, right? We're taught that our head or our mind and body are different when it's really one. Really one.
Yeah. And that with you just even saying this, I sent you a link, if I remember right, about a week ago or a few days ago. There was a gentleman that was talking about energy drinks. And he was talking about certain brands out there that has, I don't remember the name of it. It's a really long name. And what they don't, these places don't pay for this product. It's given to them free. What it is, guys, is sewage plants. They're taking the foam off the top of the sewage stuff that they're reworking, and they scrape it off and they dry it out, and it's going into these energy drinks that are so flippin' popular. I mean, it's like your Monsters, your Celsius. I think those are the only two that he named. I mean, this is crazy that we've got sewage shit going in our drinks.
Literally.
Literally.
Not just our food products, it's our household products too, because I used to work for Proactive, and Proactive is the acne solution, right? And I had this lady call, she was from Australia, and she said, "You know what your urea is, right?" And I said, "No." And she's like, "It's urine. You're putting urine in the skin products." I'm like, "I'm not doing it. I'm just the for this." Back before I knew everything, right? Back before I had the awakening or when ignorance really was bliss. But I looked it up. I was like, she's such a liar. They wouldn't do that to us in our skincare products. And so, yeah, I looked it up and it's what urea is. So it's, yeah, it goes beyond what we're also doing with our food. It's in our skincare products. It's in a lot of our home products too.
Yeah. And people are starting to catch wind of this, right? I really do believe that there are people that are going, okay, wait a minute. I'm understanding that we are not getting fed healthy products or buying healthy products. There is a new way, and I'm not saying it's everyone, but there is a new way people are seeing dollar signs. And again, what our title was, experimental medicines. There's some new things that are coming out that people are going. Almost kind of reminds me. Listening to your show yesterday almost reminds me of when Oxy came out, right? How they were just pushing, pushing, pushing. Now they're pushing the ketamine, and there are benefits, I guess, in some ways, and there's also some very unhealthy benefits, or that's not even a benefit, unhealthy things that's going on. And they're not doing the full studies on things because it affects people in different ways, which I learned on your show yesterday. And they're throwing this stuff out to everyone, which is crazy. So is this something that you are looking at as an experimental medicine?
So yeah, and so when we say experimental medicine, it's things that don't have a long backing of history, research, and people are being used as the guinea pigs for these products. And people are administering them who shouldn't be administering them, who don't have the education behind them because, it's the dollar sign, or they'll go and they'll have a ceremony. And I'm probably going to make a lot of people mad from this, but it needs to be talked about because I have actually seen clients that have experienced psychosis because of these journeys that they're taking and the precautions that are not being taken. So it's, detrimental to the lives of many people with these experimental medicines. So, and what they're deeming as medicines, and they're saying, oh, well, it's, for one instance, it's plant medicine. Well, it's plant medicine. It was put here by God. It can't harm us. But there's things out here that can harm us. Opiates can harm us. They come from the plant, and they can harm us. PCP can harm us. Peyote can harm us. Ayahuasca can harm us. So these substances, and tobacco we now know, you know, tobacco was so pushed, like having a pack of Marlboro cigarettes was the cool thing, or Camel cigarettes, you know, and that it was, the research wasn't done on it because they didn't have the research on it. And so people were smoking cigarettes, and then what happens? They start to develop cancers. And I've watched my uncle die from lung cancer and then esophageal cancer. And what a horrible death. Because, you know, nicotine has some benefits to it. It's supposed to improve blood flow, but what about the addictive qualities? You know, these are things that we need to consider now as these new medicines are emerging, like psilocybin. And yes, there is a time and there's a place for certain things under the correct circumstances, with people that are using them with integrity and administering them with integrity. But a lot of people are doing it for the money right now. And so when it's just so unethical, Al, when you're placing human lives, when you're valuing money more than human lives. And I saw this at another job that I was working at, and I refused to participate in it. You know, it's, when did the value of the dollar become more than the value of a human life? Because we're the one that put the energy towards the money, right? We're the one that says what the value of the money is, but our lives are more. Our lives are worth more than that dollar. And so do you want to jump into what these experimental medicines are?
Yes, please do. Because again, I really do value your input because you are so knowledgeable about this. So yes, please.
Okay. So, ketamine is one of them. And I talked about this yesterday with my other lovely co-host, Kathleen, or not Kathleen. Kathleen didn't get a chance to join us, but Lori and Patty from the Wellness Crusaders. So we talked a lot about ketamine yesterday. And my experience with visiting a clinic that is under construction right now. It's going to be a wellness center, and it's currently under construction. And I went there to see about renting room space. And so I didn't know they had ketamine until I arrived there, right? Because otherwise I would have just not even gone. But I remember calling you. I called you after I visited it. And I was like, what is wrong? Like, what is going on? This is so not, I was so distraught because it just was so disheartening. So when I had arrived at this clinic, there was a psychiatrist meeting with the director. And he said, this is going to be the room where we administer ketamine. And the psychiatrist said, well, do you have a bigger room? She's like, how many people can we fit in this first room? And there was only 2, that they could do 2 sessions at a time. And she's like, well, do you have a bigger room? So he takes her and he shows her this conference room. And she's like, okay, well, we could probably get like 5 or 6 people in here, but what about a bigger space? So he takes them to the yoga studio, which was one of the spaces I was looking at, and says, well, we could do it in here. And so that's like 20 people that you could get in there. And I just started asking the psychiatrist, like, how do you do ketamine? Pretending like I was dumb, which I'm not dumb, but just pretending, you know, well, how do you do this? And she said, well, we bring them in, we do a simple intake form on them, just a simple intake form. And we administer the medicine, then we give them eye masks and we give them headphones and lay them down. And then they go on their journey. And then about 45 minutes later, they can leave. And I said, okay. And I said, well, what do you like? Have you followed people on this? What are the long-term effects? Like, do you have any studies on that? And she said, she looks at her partner and she's like, we really don't. She's like, no, maybe we should do something like that. So what are you doing for the aftercare, right? And I said, well, what's the integration process like? what's the aftercare integration process like? Are you continuing to work with them? And she said, well, they should be seeing a therapist. Like they should be, but like, are you working with them to make sure that they have a therapist? You know, and um, then I said, then she says to me, she goes, well, I've never really led a group ketamine session before. So I was like, what the heck? Like, what the heck? These ketamine, for one, it works on the GABA receptors and it also works on the opiate receptors. So Dr. Huberman talks about a study that they did where they were giving people naloxone and administering ketamine. And ketamine alone was helping with the depression, but when they gave them naloxone, it wasn't helping at all. So what that means is that it's working on the opiate receptors. And the opiate receptor is our feel good, it's our pleasure, it's our reward, it's those loving feelings, right? So we can increase these with using amino acids. Diphenylalanine will help with that feeling, that good feeling that's going to, which is what a lot of people are going to ketamine for, is that depression. They're not having a sense of joy in life, right? They're not having those rewards. They're physically and psychologically pained. But we can help to increase those neurotransmitters in the brain by just supplementing with diphenylalanine, which is a natural like chemical that our body produces when we're given the right nutrients, but they get depleted when we experience stressful situations, when we have trauma, when we're using substances like alcohol, tobacco, any hallucinogens, ecstasy, chocolate, marijuana, these plant medicines. So here we go back to experimental medicines. Marijuana is one of them. Psilocybin is another one, but what they are doing is they are depleting the chemicals in our brain that are necessary for our neurotransmitters to fire optimally. So what are our neurotransmitters or chemicals that are in our brain that help our nerve patterns, that helps our nerves to fire and work? And at the end of each neuron is a synapse. And so the synapse, I like to think about this. Okay, so a neuron looks like this. And it has these little dendrites, these little fingers on the end. And at the end of the dendrites is the synapse. And the synapses go like this, and the firing pattern happens in between there. And that's where the neurotransmitters are transferred back and forth. Inside of here is a vesicle, and these neurotransmitters get recycled. So these neurotransmitters are serotonin, GABA, catecholamines, and the endorphins. Okay, then catecholamines are dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. But when we're using substances, they're getting depleted and they're not being repleted. They're not being recycled. So using these experimental medicines is causing a decrease in these brain chemistries and the brain chemistry. Now, ketamine has been shown to improve BDNF, brain nootropic. I'm drawing a blank. I know what it is. What is it? Brain derived nootropic. What is it?
It's okay. It'll come back to you.
I've got it somewhere in my brain. Oh, brain derived nootropic factor.
Okay.
And ketamine has been shown to help with the NDMA receptors, which that's a whole other topic, and I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty of it, but ketamine has been shown to help these, but you have to use it 2 times a week over a 3-week period, but it's also highly addictive. And you don't know about the withdrawals that are happening because it is working on the opiate receptors of the brain. So I haven't seen any studies regarding this stuff yet. But going back to this clinic, and the clinical director, I had a conversation with him and I talked to him and I said, It's really concerning to me that you're using ketamine and that you're not taking the necessary precautions to make sure that there's safety around this with people that you're administering it to. I said, I know a lot of people that have had negative side effects from it. And he said to me, he said, I didn't like my ketamine experience either. I liked my psilocybin experience better. I was like, then why the fuck are you
Mhm.
using this in your clinic, right?
Yeah.
Why are you using this then?
I,
I said,
I,
I would love for you to let me teach about amino acid therapy or to even be able to use it side by side with the ketamine to try and help, because I don't want to see harm. Like I just don't want to see that harm. So that was an eye opener. That was a huge eye opener and a huge shock for me where I was like, this has to be talked about. And so that's why we did our show yesterday on it. But today we want to talk too about some of the other experimental medicines, so psilocybin. And I know that that is being administered in our community by people who are not skilled or trained to help with the integration process for people who do go on their journey, which is really concerning because there is psychosis that can happen from it. And there's genetic polymorphisms that people are not talking about or looking at either, which is like the GAD gene, COMT gene, the DRD2 and DRD1 genes. And these affect the chemistry of the brain. The GAD gene affects the conversion of GABA and glutamate. And some people are not good candidates for this. Some people could be just deficient in B6 and zinc and have pyroluria. And so it's really simple to treat that depression and that anxiety and that irritability that comes from having pyroluria with nutrition and supplements instead of having to go and take these medications or these so-called medications that are still experimental. And it's just so concerning for me right now, Al. I've watched many people just handing out these things, and now the newest one is hape or rape, right? Hape or rape, it's tobacco, and you sniff it up your nose, and then it causes grounding. They say it causes a groundedness, like you feel really grounded and in your body and present, but also causes a burn. And so it reminds me a lot of cocaine, right? Because that cocaine causes that numbingness, and then you have to cough and like sneeze and blow your nose and get it out. And that's what this tobacco is doing. And people are saying, well, it's ceremonial. We're using it ceremonially, but it's being used over and over and over and over again. So if it's something ceremonial, you use it once and you walk away from it. You don't continue to go back into it over and over and over again.
yeah.
That's causing an addiction now. Right. And there's a lot of sacred tribes that use it sacredly. And they have ceremonies that they're honoring this plant medicine. They're having, they're calling in the angels, they're calling in the guides, they're calling in the protectors. And they're doing it in a way that their indigenous people have done it, and they've been trained to do it. Like they have really high training to do it. But it's now just being used. Here you go. Just try this, see how it works. But yet it's causing addictions now.
So, Jessica, do you feel that some of these industries who are starting to push these type of medicines, they're using the spiritual aspect or the grounding aspect? Because there are more and more people that I'm starting to see that are going more towards like the holistic, and they're wanting to feel the energy, and they're wanting to ground themselves. They're wanting to find out who they are within inside. And I think the word's spreading out there, and people are, like you said earlier, they're seeing the dollar signs. And I mean, they're using it. I want to say they're using it like they do with alcohol commercials,
Mhm.
right? Commercials on the radio, even on like Spotify, they're constantly advertising alcohol. And it's like, you can't have a good time at dinner unless you have a drink, or you can't go to the beach unless you have a seltzer or a beer or a hard lemonade, or you can't go on vacation if you don't have your vodka. I mean, it's, to me, it almost seems like these guys are doing the exact same thing. They're using the spirituality and the grounding, going, oh, you really want to get grounded? Hell, go take your effing shoes off and go stand in the grass and walk around in the grass. You're getting grounding there without putting anything up your nose.
Right. Or start looking at your food. Is it the energy?
Absolutely.
Is it the energy drinks that's causing you to feel all this anxiety and this panic and not feeling grounded and in your body and not in the present moment? Is it the food that you're eating that's causing your depression? Is it the people that you're hanging out with that's causing this? Because that's another thing. It's our environment too, and the relationships that we have with others. And what does our home reflect of us too? Is our home full of chaos? Is our home full of toxins? Because all of those are going to cause neural inflammation. They're going to affect our gut. They're going to affect our brain. They're going to affect our ability to function in life.
Yeah.
And you're right though, getting back to nature, our food is natural. It's like veggies and fruits and grass-fed beef and the pasture-raised animals, like those are natural. That's what God put on the planet for us. And we're so removed from it. You know, Native Americans sleep on the ground for a reason. It's to connect to that energy.
Yeah.
How
I,
big, how tall are our beds now?
my gosh, my mattress is like this thick. It's crazy.
Right. And what about your bed frame? Like they're usually a foot off, at least a foot off the ground now.
Yeah.
So we're just getting further and further away from that natural energy and the naturalness that we are. We are nature. We are part of that nature.
Yeah, we're emitting the same amount of energy, right? I mean, we're putting out that energy and the vibes. That's why taking off your shoes and walking around on the grass is so rewarding. I mean, as you know, for me, it's like going on the hikes, right? I ground so much to nature and just feel, I don't know. It's hard to say the feelings that I get inside when I'm out in the mountains or anywhere. I've not been on a beach very much, but even when I'm on a beach, I feel that same type of energy and grounding.
Yeah. Well, and you just said something interesting about energy, and that's one thing that's not being talked about either, because there is a whole energetic aspect to it. And I don't know if we should talk about that now or if
You're the guest. I mean, I allow my guests to say whatever it is that they want to say. As you know, I don't cut in anything. It just happens.
okay, so we'll talk about that, right? So
Okay.
there's a lot of things that look really good when you first see them. There's a lot of things that look like they're light and that they're positive and uplifting and helpful. Right. And that's that's the picture that's being painted with some of these plant medicines, is that you're going to have a better life. Like we'll work through your trauma. It will lift your depression. You'll feel better. And of course you're going to feel better because it's upregulating your endorphins, your serotonin, your dopamine. Like it's upregulating those temporarily. So yes, you're going to get that immediate high from it. Okay. And so that's the light part of it, but there's also the energetic side of it. And there's a lot of dark that hides within the light. And this is energetically as well. So when you start to, I don't know how to explain this to people that don't understand this. Everything emits an energy, everything emits a frequency. And when we start to experiment with these experimental medicines or plant medicines or whatever you want to call it, they're drugs. You start to experiment with them, you become an open vessel for other energetic attachments. And it does lower your vibration, it does lower your frequency. And I know people that have gone and experienced trips, journeys, done ayahuasca ceremonies, and who've come back and have the energetic attachment now of the shaman that administered it. Or the psilocybin. When somebody is drinking alcohol, that is a really low vibration and they are no longer in control. So we talk about demons, right? We talk about our demons and how addiction, like, oh, they beat their demon. They're no longer in pain, or they conquered that addiction, so they beat their demons. But there's also that whole energetic side of the demons too. And that is not being discussed. So that energetic demon attachment continues to want us to live in a state that is a lower vibration. So now, our jobs are at risk, our friendships are at risk, our life is at risk. And it's really hard to get out of that deep, dark hole when you have that, because the more that you surround yourself with that type of energy, the more it overtakes you, the more it becomes you and you become it. And so that's like the best way that I can describe it right now without going into deeper places with it. But thinking about the energy that we're bringing in, right? The law of attraction is we're taught, and we've seen that word, we've heard that word, it's thrown around all over the place. The law of attraction, what we think we become, and what we become we think, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the more we resist something, the more it persists. So then we end up attracting that. And we start to live in that place of fear. And when we start to live in that place of fear, which this is going back to our emotions, we don't want to feel discomfort. We don't want to feel sadness. We don't want to feel anger. We don't want to feel irritable. We don't want to feel these things. That's a place of fear. We're afraid of what that feels like and how we'll get out of it. And so we're looking for relief outside of ourselves. But if we look inside of ourselves for the answers, we have our own inner wisdom. We have a voice. Our symptoms are the voice. Those emotions are the voice. Our body knows what it needs to do to maintain balance. Our body is our friend. Our emotions are our friend. Our mind is our friend. We're told otherwise in society.
Yeah. 100%. And I'm with you on this one all the way. I just spoke with someone a couple days ago who called me, was really struggling with some things. And basically I told this individual, allow yourself to go through these emotions, allow yourself to feel them. It says, just don't get stuck there, because it's okay for our bodies to feel the way they're feeling. And I'm a huge believer. Okay, that's a word I working on getting rid of in my vocabulary. My version is, God gave us all these feelings for a purpose, because we have to experience them for us to grow. If we're shutting them out, there's no way we can grow. And like you said, that there is darkness within the light. I think that's when also it allows the darkness to continue to grow, because we're not allowing ourselves. However, if we allow ourselves to sit in those emotions, feel them, and then move past that. I watched a video this morning of this Buddhist monk, and I can't remember his names, like Nich Tun Han or something like that. Is it?
Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
hot. He's my favorite.
Oh my gosh, the guy is amazing. I mean, I know he's no longer with us. However, the guy is simply amazing. And he was talking about how today how the first arrow never misses its target. So if I say something very rude and ignorant to you, I hit my target. You absorb it. However, the second arrow can miss if we choose to allow it to miss, right? We've already absorbed that first arrow. And he says when certain emotions come in, he recognizes it and he wants to know where he feels it in his body. And he wants to really pay attention where it's at, whether it's in his stomach, whether it's in his mind, whether it's in his heart, anywhere in his body. And he says, I allow that emotion to go through and do what it needs to do. And then he goes, and then I get rid of it. I shake it off. And so many of us need to do that because, again, we're also now causing more health issues for us because our body isn't designed to hang on, just like the chemicals that we put in ourselves from bad foods. Our body can't handle all that. And so different things come up like diabetes, free radicals floating around in our system and attaching to places they don't need to attach to. I mean, tell me I'm full of shit if I am, but again, that's just my version because you know this stuff a lot better than I do.
No, you're absolutely right with what you said. You're absolutely right. And yeah, I love Thich Nhat Hanh. I've studied his teachings. He, in fact, that was how I got into mindfulness, was because of him and his first book that I read, which was Peace is Every Step. And it's a beautiful book. He's, yeah, one of my heroes, one of my, yeah, my biggest teachers. But what you said, yes, about the toxins, and yes, it's all around us. It's everywhere around us. And so what we put in us does harm us. And I loved what you said about that because it goes back to these plant medicines too. What we're putting in, they do have side effects. And how are they being grown? How are they being harvested? Like what fertilizers, what toxins are going in there? Are there heavy metals in them? And then you're putting them in your body, causing more toxic exposure, more toxic burden. Whereas if we both know, Al, how powerful breath work is,
Oh yeah.
we've experienced that. And breath work is natural and it's available to you 24/7. It's one of the biggest tools that we have right at our fingertips.
Literally in our mouth, our nose. Yeah.
Yeah, so going back to nutritionally dense food, looking at the root cause, like what is actually causing this instead of looking for another quick fix. Just look, because the quick fixes are not necessarily quick fixes.
No.
If they were a quick fix, then why are people doing ceremony after ceremony? Ceremony after ceremony.
Yeah.
And I know people that just, I have a friend that just went on ayahuasca trip after ayahuasca trip after ayahuasca trip. And another thing to consider is if somebody's on an SSRI and they go and do these ayahuasca trips, they could get serotonin syndrome, and serotonin syndrome is deadly.
Wow. I did not know that.
So, because it's increasing the serotonin in the brain. But if you're on an SSRI and you go and do ayahuasca, it can kill you. So, people are, these ceremonies and these journeys that some people are administering and doing all these little get-togethers where they're administering this medicine and not even getting to know the client or their genetic predisposition or any medications that they're on is really concerning. And being on SSRIs, I mean, that's not a quick fix either. It's, yes, there's a time and a place for it, but I have clients right now that are trying to come off of their medications and they're experiencing some really serious, severe withdrawal symptoms from it, where their entire body is experiencing electrical shocks throughout it and they're very uncomfortable. But using the amino acids, that can help counteract those withdrawals. You know, I've had clients that are withdrawing off of gabapentin and having seizures from it. And we plug in GABA, we plug in L-theanine, and L-theanine is neuroprotective, but these work on the GABA receptors in the brain, which is also what ketamine works on. So it's as simple as like, and one of the things that's so great about the amino acid therapy that I do is that it repairs the brain in as little as 3 to 6 months, and you don't have to continue taking the supplements for a lifelong term. You take them when you experience stress or when you experience a death or just when you need them. But 3 to 6 months consistently for most people is repairing their brain and their firing patterns.
Wow.
And this was developed, you know, Julia Ross is one that found this. So Julia Ross is one of the initial people, but this is orthomolecular medicine. It's orthomolecular medicine. So going back to our molecules, giving our molecules and cells what they need to function and fire optimally, which is the nutrition and just what our body needs, just the natural chemicals that our body needs.
Isn't it crazy how we've pulled away from all this, Jessica, just so they can push the synthetic drugs on us? I mean, seriously, because a couple weeks ago I was speaking with somebody about the Native Americans. I mean, they had it. I mean, you know, if they woke up sick or something, they didn't jump on their horse and ride into the nearest town to their pharmacist or to the doctor just so they could grab a piece of paper and here's your prescription.
Yeah.
There's 20 side effects with it, but if there is, let me know and I'll write another one for you and give you something else. I mean, their plants, the herbs, nature, the grounding, everything, they had it. And science comes in and starts finding different ways to take these plants, break it down to where there's hardly anything, but then still advertise that this is in it,
Mm-hmm.
and then add all this synthetic crap. So we can go back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show, so we can make more money. I mean, I made, what is it? The pharmaceutical company, I think they're around $8 to $9 billion a year. A year, billion? What are
Well,
they gonna
and
do?
yeah, we're the only place that advertises pharmaceuticals on our commercials, you know, and on our TV. Like
Yeah,
Europe does.
and there's new ones out constantly.
Mhm.
I swear, whenever I turn on the TV to watch it, there's a commercial of a new drug for something.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, they are pushing to poison us so bad. We are all being poisoned. And again, even if we don't take prescriptions, you just said it earlier, we're surrounded by it. We're breathing in our air, drinking it in our water. It's in our homes. It's under our counters. You know, however, there are things out there like the amino acids that can help keep us healthier and help kind of counter react from a lot of that stuff.
Mhm. Yep. Absolutely. There's
Yeah.
solutions. So even though it seems like dark and heavy and hard and confusing and like you just want to close your ears and close your eyes and not see and not hear it, there's still solutions. And it's the awareness that's important because you can't create changes subconsciously or unconsciously, or you can't create those changes until you bring it into awareness and you bring it into the conscious mind.
Yeah.
And it's about listening to your inner wisdom and listening to those symptoms and trying to understand and questioning why. Why is this happening, instead of just listening to your medical professional who's saying, okay, just take this pill for the symptom, which just masks it, so listening to your inner wisdom, listening to your symptoms and asking why and looking for the solutions and looking for the root cause.
And do your research, right? I've heard you say that quite a bit too. Do your research to, I mean, especially if you're going into a brand new clinic. I mean, find out, ask some questions because
Definitely.
I mean, since I've known you, I think I've texted you or called you on a few questions that I've even had. Hey, I've heard about this, or I think I even sent you a link one time. Hey, someone was telling me this stuff is really good. What do you think? And I sent it to you because I trust what your word is because you've studied it and you've done your research. Yeah, and I would just highly suggest anybody, seriously, if you're looking at any type of experimental crap that's out there, highly, I mean, reach out to Jessica. As you guys could tell, she knows what she's talking about. Do your research and find out, and also listening to your body, like you said, because our bodies, they're freaking amazing. They are such an amazing machine that will tell us when things are going on. I mean, years ago, back in my late 20s, maybe early 30s, um, I was suffering from depression and some things, which was crazy because I never thought I'd fall into that. And I went to a therapist, and of course, they put me on some type of drug. I don't even remember the name of it. All I know is I took it for 3 days, and I'm like, oh, hell no. My mind was going in so many different directions. I could not, I knew I wasn't feeling my true self. And 3 days of it, and I was done. I dumped him down the toilet. And even when I went back to my therapist and they're like, how's it working for you? I'm like, I flushed him down the toilet. You know, and this was back in my partying days, right? Where I was drinking like crazy and snorting cocaine and smoking pot and have a good time in life. There was no way I was going to take those. And I believe my body was telling me that this isn't a mix for you.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and there's, yeah, muscle testing that you can do. You can learn how to muscle test yourself. And I can teach people how to do that. It's such a good way to see if it's going to be good for your body. And you listened. You actually listened to what it was doing, and you're like, no, I don't want this, even though you were numbing with other things.
Yeah.
Still, you
Yeah.
still had that wisdom that was still there, and it's there. It's there.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I was on an antidepressant in 2003 after my dad died, and was on Zoloft and just used it temporarily. And then when I was ready to jump off of it, I just thought I could stop taking it. And I stopped taking it, and then I was getting those electrical shock sensations down the back of my neck and into my brain. And so I had to jump back on it and wean myself off of it. And the way that doctors are weaning people off is way too quick. It's way too quick. Like my one client, they had her jump from 40 milligrams of Cymbalta down to 20 milligrams in a week, in less than a week, and then doing 20 every other day, which is no, no, no. And then in addition to that, she's on benzos and an MAOI inhibitor. So it's just the combination of drugs that they're putting people on is very worrisome. So in addition to the plant medicines and the experimental medicines, pharmaceuticals are still an experimental medicine, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and what scares me too is uh, I'm now in the understanding that with the CDB and the legalization of a lot of this stuff, that industries like Philip Morris cigarette company, they're now spending millions and millions of dollars to get into it because they're seeing the money in it. We've got the Sacklers, and for those of you guys don't know who the Sackler, they're the ones that come up with the oxy, who have now created the heroin epidemic. They are starting to see the dollar sign. So now they have actually spent, I think, $1.5 billion to get into the CDB industry because they're starting to see where they can take it. Because what they're going to do. They're going to go out and poison us just like they did with the oxy. Their intention is to make money. That's their number one intention, not anything else. And there are maybe some things that these products do help people, right? Even with pharmaceutical, we don't want to knock all of it because there are some that people really, really do need. However, the majority of it again, this is just my version of it, is all poison, and it's damaging our community. It's damaging our health. It's taking the lives of our loved ones, people that we care about. And I don't know, maybe this could be one of the reasons too why there's the increase in suicide, because our brains are just so confused with everything that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. It is. We're confused and we're so removed from our natural way of being that of course that's going to create interruptions in your body. It's going to create those suicidal thoughts of wanting to escape. It's going to create those anxieties and a feeling like something isn't right because it's not right.
Yeah.
And suicide is a depletion in serotonin.
Hmm.
Serotonin's made in our gut.
And what? And what?
And serotonin's made in our gut. So if we're eating crap food or we're not eating, we're not getting the serotonin to our brain either.
And both of those are important. A lot of people don't realize how important gut health is. I mean, they're in combination. Am I correct? The brain and the gut, they've got to be, they both have to be healthy for us to be healthy.
Yep. If one's not healthy, the other's not going to be healthy.
Yeah.
They're related. Yeah. Woo, good stuff.
I know, right? And gosh, I wish we had more time because I got another show I have to do here in about 15 minutes. However, I'm doing, and Jessica's helping me with this to bring, is it Lori who was on your show yesterday? And Jody and yourself to,
Patty,
what's that?
Lori, Patty, and me.
Patty. I don't know why I keep calling Patty Jody. I
You must
keep
know Jody, the
doing that. I gotta change something up here. So I want to get all three of you ladies to come on the show and share more of this, because the knowledge that all three of you have is amazing. I mean, seriously, yesterday I was just in awe listening to you guys talk about all that you mentioned and the knowledge that you guys have behind it. So guys, please continue to watch, because we will get them scheduled. It may be a month or so down the road, but we will get them scheduled where they all get to come on. And I always love having Jessica come on because, again, she's got so much knowledge and information to help us. And I know Jessica has a big heart, and that's all she wants to do is help individuals. And there's a lot of us that's in this industry. It's not about the money. It's about helping one another. I mean, yes, we want to make a living just like everyone else. However, it's about creating a healthier environment around us, and it can be done. And a liver is an organ that can be regrown, right? If there's some damage in, as long as it doesn't go too far. And it's really good to know, because Jessica shared it with us earlier, that the brain, we can change it. We can definitely change it with the right. I don't want to say a product, because I don't want to say product. That sounds just like the other stuff. With the right nutrition, I guess we could put it that way.
Yeah. With the right nutrition, with the right food, with what it needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, what it needs.
So for final comments, what would you like to share with our listeners?
So you don't have to struggle alone. Reach out to me. I am offering a free consultation. So we can talk, we can look at the brain balancing chart. I can show you what I do and how that works. And there's hope. There is hope. You don't have to look at these plant medicines. And if you are looking at them, please come and talk to me so that I can help you navigate through what that would look like and how to find the best care, if that's the route that you decide to go. And let's talk about the integration afterwards. But for me personally, I'm not going to put anything into my body or my brain knowing what the side effects could be. And I have seen brain spect images of some of these medications that just cause harm to the brain. So, but with that being said, I am a little bit biased. However, I want you to receive the best care. And so I'm willing to talk to you and help you weigh all options and be able to understand what that best care looks like.
I love it. Thank you, Jessica, for what you do. I mean, seriously, really appreciate for what you're doing, and you're doing this for a reason, right? You've had some experiences in your life that pretty much put you on this path. And it seems to happen to quite a few people where an experience happens in their life or a trauma or something that puts them on this path to say, you know what, I don't want to see this happen to anybody else that I care about, or even someone that I just get to meet. We just want to help.
Right.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Al. Thank you for having me. Always a
Abs-
pleasure.
Absolutely. You're welcome anytime. You know that.
So my website is collectivehealingarts.life, Life. So collectivehealingarts.life. I have a book on there that you can download for free. It's on Love Your Brain and brain boosting tips and techniques. So go get it.
I love it. Well, guys, reach out to Jessica if you got any questions. She'll answer them spot on, I guarantee it. Again, thank you everyone for all your support. Greatly appreciate it. This is the 279th episode. It's hard to believe we're hitting 300 here really soon. So thank you to all you guys. You guys are making it possible. And remember this, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.